We're good?
We're good to go.
Good afternoon. Ed Ronan here. Welcome to our virtual education. Everyone's very excited today, I can tell, just to be joining this way. It's kind of cool though. We're doing this today's education in combination with the Greater Virginia and Baltimore chapters, and have only over 70 people coming. So I don't know if it's because of me or Chris Atley, but it's actually kind of exciting. Chris, we were hoping to have her in person. You know, we're trying to do, obviously all of us would prefer to be in a room today, having some lunch first and having a meeting. But, you know, in an effort to keep everyone informed, learn some new things, have some new topics, and somewhat get together, you know, we have changed for the foreseeable future to a virtual platform. You probably have all seen that CMA's World Conference in March will now be a 5-day virtual. And I had lunch with Jeff Morgan and Jason Koningsfeld last week, and it was a very hard, it was a hard decision for them to do, not the first on their list. They are going to go back to anyone who wanted to go to Tampa. Tampa is going to be in 2025, I think. So it's going to be San Diego, will be out where Chris is actually. 2022 will be San Diego, Orlando 23. I don't think it's disclosed yet, but 24 could be Vegas, and then 25 will be Tampa. So they are still forging forward with those. As you know, BMIs have been somewhat virtual. The ones they can, food and beverage, sports and rec, things they can't do, they're still trying to figure out what to do. Along those same lines, we're not going to have our installation dinner, which is typically in January. Last year, Patrick King did a great job with over 120 people. It's just not realistic in our current environment. So, you know, look for, we'll come out with something, and hopefully spring, fall, maybe it'll be more of a casual social thing, congressional, my club somewhere, but we do want to get everyone together. I am the forefront of doing that, but doing it safely. So along the same lines of good news, our 2-day education in February, again, we're being converted to a master's roundtable. So Margot's working on getting some GMs, and we'll have a good interactive session. We're hoping with a few GMs, and there's no Top Golf that day, so we can go in a small pods possibly. Our March education right now is maybe in person, but we're not announcing that until we see how things go this spring. My county, Montgomery County, is going backwards. We're going to no gatherings larger than 25 beginning this week, 25% capacity in the restaurants, and it's hard to plan adequately, you know, being prepared going forward. You know, and I just appreciate your support and understanding with us, because it's a world we're dealing with, and anyone with any thoughts, ideas, things we could do, you know, let us know. Along the same lines, we are looking for chairs, committee volunteers for 2021. It's hard to say that already, but reach out to Kate, and if you're interested in helping in an education, or there's a whole list of committees which we'll be talking about going forward, that we're looking for volunteers, and coming up with committee chairs with that. Along the lines of membership, this has not been a banner year. As you know, some of our clubs are doing quite well. CMA as a organization, and our chapter has not fared as well as in some years. We're probably at 50% of our goal for the year. And then, so if you know of anyone interested, Kate, this is when you can kind of join for half price. Am I saying that right? Or no, that's already expired. Never mind.
No, we're in the regular part of the membership year. The new membership year just started. So this is actually an awesome time, because you're going to get the most out of your membership year if you join before the end of 2020.
We have some scholarships being decided. We did have some people apply for a scholarship, so that'll be announced upcoming. Boy, this is the same pattern. Our December, holiday brunch or whatever, we're obviously not doing, but we talked as a group of trying to do some type of a local fundraising, maybe adopt a family. Patrick King and Alex, I think, are going to work on some ideas. So please be looking for that. And we as the board would support that, personally and with our clubs, to try to do some sort of a fundraising activity in December. Really, that's all I have. If there's questions, I'd entertain them. But otherwise, Kevin Riley, who is still this month, a partner at PB Mears. We appreciate your support as a major sponsor, but he's going to introduce our speaker today. And so Kevin Riley, that you all know, who's one of our platinum sponsors from PB Mears.
Thanks, Ed. It has been a very different year. I did get to play in 3 chapter golf tournaments, though. And I will say that while Baltimore was the coldest, it's the only one that wasn't wet. So both the Virginia and the National Capital, we got rained on. As you know, that PB Mears has been a longtime supporter of the club managers, the National Club Association, all the local chapters. And we've done it for pretty much as long as I've been around with the firm. As Ed mentioned, that I'll be retiring as an equity partner at the end of the year, but you're not going to get rid of me that easy. I'll still be, it's kind of the of council type of range that you've got going on. So anything that PB Mears can do for you, particularly at this period of time, anytime we can reach out, please just reach out to me or to Kate, and she'll put us in touch. So now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Chris Atley. And I do love the fact that she's from San Diego, and we see the guitar in the background, giving a little image there. But Chris discovered a correlation between self-care and creating a successful business after incorporating this into her own life and working with hundreds of business owners. She has created her biggest dreams through the principles she teaches, and continues to help others do the same through her writing, teaching, and coaching. Chris is a best-selling author, TEDx speaker, and award-winning coach. She has been featured on media outlets such as Bloomberg Radio, Fox, ABC, and the Manhattan Neighborhood Network. We're thrilled to have Chris here for this joint education session with the Virginia's, Greater Baltimore, and National Capital chapters, and look forward to her session on staying focused on growing education and motivating others. Please join me in welcoming Chris Atley.
Hi, everyone. I can hear the clapping. It's so different to be virtual, right? And I'm just so excited to be here with you guys. I just saw a hummingbird fly by. I'm in front of my window here that you can't see. So thinking this is a good omen for us today. And I just want to say I've enjoyed so much getting to know Ed and Kate and Kevin before starting today. And I have to say that we are members of our local golf course here in Solana Beach, California, just outside of downtown San Diego. And it honestly has been a saving grace through all of this. And I'm gonna tear up because, as you all know, this has been such a challenging time. And thank goodness for all of you and for the memberships. My husband golfs every week and, is just helped out immensely, not only for physical health, but for mental health. And so I just can't say thank you enough to all of you for what you're doing and how you're helping people. And I just want you to know that what you're doing does make a big difference in people's lives. So anyway, I didn't plan on saying that, but I just felt it in the moment. And that's what I wanted to say too, that we're just going to go with the flow today. So I do have a presentation ready for you guys. We're going to go over 4 main areas today that are going to help you move forward. And we're really looking at, I'm sure everybody is probably tired of hearing the word pivot, right? I know I am, and it's been helpful, of course, that concept. But today, what we're really going to do is move beyond that. I'm going to share some strategies that have really helped me and my clients over the years. And we really want to have that solid foundation so that it can help you today and also moving forward, no matter what's thrown at you in the future. Because we have a lot of power in our own mindset and how we influence others. And that's what we want to tap into today so that we can create the reality that we're really wanting to create. Now, I have to say, we're at home, right, from our home offices, and just walking into my office, we had a quick break here before we hopped on, and we bought a bucket of fake snowballs. That's what we have to do here in San Diego to have a snowball fight. I have 2 kids, and I got hit with a snowball on the way to the office. So it's like anything goes. If you hear noise in the background, you'll know what that is. Hopefully I don't get hit with snowballs with the door opening here. But so just bear with me with any background noise. We're all juggling through. And I've actually been working from home for a long time and using Zoom, but different with having the kids home, right? That provides some unique challenges for sure. So anyway, I'm going to share my screen, and I wanted to say too, so we're going to keep this interactive. If you guys have questions, type them in the chat. I love using the chat for these presentations. That goes really well. I hosted a retreat the other day and was blown away at how engaging and connected we actually can feel by using the chat feature. It's the second best thing. And I actually was telling everyone before we started this that it almost is more engaging than being there in person. So that there's definitely pros and cons to both. So use the chat feature, and Kate's going to monitor that and kind of pull out the questions for the end. If there's anything urgent, then we'll address that throughout the presentation. So I'm going to share the screen, and we're gonna dive right in here. So bear with me, and I hope you can still see me. I think typically when we share the screen on Zoom, you can still see me here. So let's see here. Okay, as I juggle things around. There we go. Okay. So today, as Kevin indicated, we're going to go over staying focused on growing, educating, and motivating others. And I just wanted to share a little bit about me. Kevin had a great intro there, and just so you can learn a little bit about me and who I am and why should you listen to me today. Well, I have been fortunate enough to have a coaching and speaking practice for over 13 years now. Before that, I was in the corporate world in the insurance industry, handling property and liability claims. And I did that for 10 years. And as I said, now in the coaching and speaking industry for over 13. I was involved back in the day when nobody knew even what coaching was. And maybe there's still a few of you as well, and that's okay. But I was always educating people on what coaching was, and now it's just really taken off as a big industry here. Been fortunate enough to win a coaching award. Big dream came true last year with giving a TEDx talk in India, which was so much fun. And I was able to take my then 13-year-old son, he's 14 now, and had just the best time with traveling and doing what I love, and involving him and him getting to see that part of the world. It was just so much fun. And also best-selling author on Amazon. You're welcome to check out the book, Navigating Entrepreneurship. That was a really fun project. And last but not least, a wife, mother of 2 kids, as I indicated, our dog Gracie. And I also added in here community advocate, because that's been really important to me, and maybe it is for you too. Would love to hear that, actually, if you want to drop in the chat if that's something that's important to you too. But I do belong to several philanthropy boards here. I'm also really involved with the homeless youth and passionate about helping out in whatever way that I can. And so I'm happy to share some things that I've picked up over the years that have truly made a big impact in my own life. And this is one of them. So before we dive into our 4 topics, how many people can relate to this right now, or maybe even over the years, this feeling of overwhelm? And if you want to just drop in the chat, and of course, you're welcome to do the public chat where everybody can see we're in this together, or in a private chat there, you're welcome to do that too. And actually, I did want to say that let's really take the time right now to not multitask. Yes, I just called you out on it if that applies to you. And that's okay. We're all guilty of it. But let's really take this time for you and for your own self to really move through this. We're going to go through a few exercises as well that are going to help you guys shift some things right here and now, because we all know it's hard to go back and implement after a presentation. So really give this your all right now. And let's just stay focused on that. So in terms of this, drop in the chat if this feels like you, if we can all relate, right, at some point or another. And this is really what my journey's been all about. I have to say, as a business owner, I usually like to say being in business for yourself is the best personal development course you could ever take, because you're really forced to get out of your own way and look at why you're creating or not creating the results that you want, so that you can, repeat the good things and tackle the things that aren't working. And so the self-care piece really has been the biggest thing, because I spent a lot of my time in my corporate days feeling overwhelmed, taking on too much. I was commuting. If you haven't figured out where I'm from my outs and abouts, I'm from Canada, and we've been in California for about 11 years now. But I used to feel really overwhelmed in my corporate job. I was commuting, I want to say on a good day, about 2 hours a day there and back, and then throw in a snowstorm, and that was just hours on end with commuting. And so I felt like this and was in this place of overwhelm. And it wasn't until I heard about coaching that I ended up changing everything. So what I decided to do was I hired my own coach, and I had heard about coaching. I knew I wanted to make a career change. I wasn't sure what that looked like. And I thought, I'm going to hire a coach just to make sure that this is what I want to do. Well, lo and behold, I ended up making all these changes in my personal life. The goal setting that she had me doing were things like walks in nature, going for a massage once a month, taking time for myself every week. I had little kids at the time. Then my first was just born, actually, so really little. And I was still setting goals like this with taking time for myself. I remember my husband and I would trade off, and we'd each get a section of time every week. And this was huge. This had me making the biggest changes in my own life that I wasn't expecting. As I said, I thought I was just hiring a coach to see what coaching was all about. Lo and behold, I made all of these changes. And then, of course, I was really believing in the process of coaching because I saw what it was doing for me. But not only that, I had a major shift in perspective. And what I realized was that when I take time for myself and take care of myself, everything else in my life flows. And we're going to get more into why that is in a little bit, but everything else would flow, from business results to relationships being better, to just me being happier, which of course was having a ripple effect. And I was nicer to be around because I wasn't so stressed out. So this really had a huge impact for me. And where I am now, there's me and my dog, Gracie. We have an Australian Shepherd. Does anybody else have a beloved pet that they just love? The unconditional love that we get from our pets is just nothing beats it, right? Anyway, I had to put that in here. She was part of a photo shoot last year, and we had so much fun. She was made for taking photos, I think. But anyway, so where I am now, I am living my dream in California. Thank goodness my husband was on board. And we are here in, as I said, Solana Beach, a small beach town just outside of the main part of San Diego, and making myself a priority. So this really, I'm convinced, is my lifelong lesson. So it's not that I don't ever slip. It's not that I don't ever get stressed out or have a full plate, but really what this has enabled me to do is be able to catch it a lot faster. So if I start to slip or I'm feeling off, it always goes back to not taking time for myself or adding too much to my plate, right? Who can relate to that? Adding too much to our plates and, creating that stress and overwhelm, because we all have a choice. We all have a choice with going to work. We all have a choice with how we're spending our time. And we all have a choice on whether or not we're making ourselves a priority. And so what I'm going to do today is give you that permission to be able to do that. And as I said, this continues to be a lifelong lesson. Even last week, I was, had a full plate. I was busy, still taking time for myself in the mornings. I'm a huge believer in taking time for ourselves before the workday and just entering the workday with being able to feel grounded and calm. And what I realized though is I still, was kind of in a heavier mood. And so I allowed myself to go for a beach walk. I was able to make the time. Of course, we always have a to-do list a mile long, but was able to make that time and just make the decision and go and do it. And of course, I felt so much better. I had all these brainstorms for projects I was working on. And I also was just in an elevated, happier place. And this is huge from operating our lives this way. And so this is what we're going to get into today. But again, it's a constant catching of this, reminding of ourselves, right? That it's okay, giving ourselves permission and then checking in and just seeing where we're feeling off so that we can course correct as we go. And then what this leads to is really making empowered decisions. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today, because we are going to go over these 4 concepts today, which are motivation, filling up your cup, and knowing your values and expectations. And this really all is so that you can be a more empowered version of yourself, so that you can make empowered decisions when we're operating from an empowered place. And this is really what I do a lot of work on with my entrepreneurial clients, is learning how to make decisions to operate from this empowered place so that you can make empowered decisions and then create empowered results. So this is really about and I skipped ahead there. So bear with me as I get through these slides. But when we can make empowered decisions, we really create empowered results. So this is more of what we're wanting to create, right? Empowered results that feel good. And it's really where we want to be. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And the first area, how to do this. So 4 areas, 4 concepts on how to do this. And you're welcome to take notes. I can share these slides with you guys. If that's helpful, just drop in the chat there that you would like to do that. And so the first one's motivation. It's really important to get motivated and stay motivated, right? This is everything, especially with what the last few months have looked like and with moving forward. So looking at, first of all, what lights you up, right? What is that fires up your soul, that, makes you so happy that you want to get out of bed in the morning? And if you're unsure, if you're feeling a little off right now, what I would suggest doing is even taking 15 minutes and just doing a brainstorm on all the things that you love to do. And we want to make sure that these are incorporated into your day. And this could be something bigger. We're going to get into, what your why is. This can be your why. You're just so excited to work towards it. It could be something smaller that you're doing that day. For me, sometimes it's just that morning routine. The morning routine feels so good. I have, as you know, 2 kids as well. They're older now. 14 and 11, had to think for a second there. They're older now, so they're not as hands-on in physical needs, but they are in other ways, right? So I'm sure those of you with older kids can relate to that as well. But just getting up for me in the morning before the whole house is up and having that time to myself and having my coffee. And I'll get more into what my actual morning routine is later. But just what is that lights you up that you can connect to every single day? And if you know what that is right now, type it in the chat. I would love to hear from you guys what that is. And then from there, what we want to do is we want to have a personal and a professional why. So this is really important. So we want to have a goal, essentially, that we're working towards in both our personal lives and our professional lives. So a goal, for example, or your why, let's even chunk it back up, because your why might be your family, or it might be having fun in life, right? We're going to get more into values as well. But it might be something broader like that. And then we want to choose something within it. So what is something that you would like, say it's family, you would like to do with your family? What's an experience that you would like to work toward, right? In creating, maybe it's a vacation, maybe it's moving somewhere that you've just always wanted to do, or that's inspiring for you. So looking, or, a beautiful new house, whatever that looks like. You want to have that personal goal that you're working toward. And that's also going to help with what lights you up every day as well. So you want to choose one in the personal area. And if you know what that is, go ahead and write it down. And maybe we'll even give you guys a minute here just to write down what these are, because like I said, it's hard to come back after, even if we have the best intentions after a presentation, right? So now in terms of professional, what is it that you love about what you do, right? Why this profession? What is it about it? And it could be something to do with the mission or vision of your club. Maybe say that, hey, there's a broader vision of creating amazing experiences for other people. Then what is a goal that you can set underneath that will help to create those experiences? Maybe it's an event, a virtual event. Maybe there's something you can do to connect with the members. Just throwing out ideas. So take them or leave them, but just to illustrate the example of the professional why. So you probably have that bigger umbrella, right, of why this club, and really getting connected to that vision. And then what's a goal that you can work toward within it? And maybe it's a professional goal as well, could be related more to the personal. So maybe there's a financial goal within that for yourself as well. You can check in there, but we essentially want to have a why in both areas. So let's even just take a minute right now and just jot down whatever's coming to your mind, just so that you can let that flow right now. And then you don't need to come back to it later, and you can kind of ruminate on it throughout the day. So we'll give you a minute there. Go ahead and write those down. Good. Okay, so you're probably wondering why there is a ham in this pan in this picture here. It's kind of not a super attractive photo. But what I want to get into next, and this is going to make more sense, is beliefs. So beliefs really have the ability to motivate or unmotivate us. So beliefs are really decisions that we've made, usually younger on, that are in our subconscious mind, that really dictate how we make decisions. So we're going back to empowered decisions, right? Or disempowered, how we make decisions, and therefore how we show up. So how we behave, how we take action or don't take action. And this is really what's behind things like procrastination. It's not so much that if you're procrastinating or you see somebody else procrastinating, it's not so much that they aren't having bigger goals or connected to bigger goals or don't want things or don't want to grow and don't want to be motivated. It's that there's some belief in the subconscious mind that is running the show. So it's really that underlying operating system that most of us aren't even aware of. And so an example to illustrate how beliefs are formed and how they're stored is this ham in the pan example. And this is a fun story. I always love to share this one because it just makes it so obvious, because this can be kind of an abstract concept. So there was a husband and wife, and the wife was preparing a ham and she cuts the ends off the ham. And the husband asks her, why do you cut the ends off the ham? And she said, I don't know. I've just always done it that way. That's the way my mom did it. So they asked the mom, why do you cut the ends off the ham when you prepare ham? And she goes, I don't know. That's just the way I've always done it. That's the way my mom did it. So they asked the grandma, why do you cut the ends off the ham? And she goes, that's easy, because the pan was too small. So all these years, the grandma was consistently cutting the ends off the ham because her pan was too small. And then the belief of this is how we prepare a ham got passed down, right, to the mom and then the wife. And so this is the way beliefs work. They're things that usually are ideas and concepts, decisions that our parents, caretakers, schools, right, teachers, cultures, societies have all taken on to be true. And we're just taught that. We watch what other people are doing, we hear what other people are doing, and these usually, again, are formed when we're younger, right? We're very aware, we're seeing what's happening, and through consistent repetition. So when you see something over and over, like the ham being prepared, it really gets strengthened in our subconscious mind. So this is why we need to get clear on every single thing that we are believing. Why are we believing something to be true, right? What is it that we are believing? And again, this is in the subconscious mind. So a lot of these things aren't conscious. So our subconscious mind really doesn't have the ability to reason, doesn't have free will, doesn't have the ability to make decisions. That's our conscious mind. But when we can get to the root of what's in our subconscious mind, then we can use our conscious mind to say, no, that's not really serving me anymore, right? Once we go, why do I believe what I do? And this is really important with money, with success, with, even what's happening in the world right now, to really look at what are our beliefs around these things and how are they dictating the results I'm seeing or not seeing right now, right? So a great way to figure out where you're at right now is to look at what is going on around you. So I'm a huge believer in our thoughts create a reality. And what I left out in the beginning is my journey started into all of this with watching the movie The Secret. And if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. And it's all about like attracts like, and that we're essentially all energy. And I know I'm in California. I won't get too woo-woo on you guys. That journey actually started in Canada though. But we really want to just look at how our thoughts are creating what is happening in our world. And so that movie's great. There's also a book, but the concept really is that like attracts like. So if you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe, it's not a coincidence that then your day kind of spirals, right? You kind of get stuck in traffic, or you know, maybe you have an altercation with someone, like it just kind of spirals, right? You've probably had one of those days. Whereas when you're feeling great and amazing, things continue that way. And that's not a coincidence. It's because of what we're putting out. We're going to get more back up. And I'm going to get to that in a second here with the self-care piece. But let's all take a second right now and just jot down. So let's even do it with sort of a more negative result, because we want to keep the good ones, right? So what is causing you stress right now? And let's look at what the thinking is. So the thinking is always going to be the cause, right? Because we all know, even with everything that's been going on with the last few months, there have been businesses that, to use the word pivot again, have pivoted, right? I mean, just a real specific personal example. I was working with some real estate agents at the beginning of all of this, and one agent kept her mind completely, and they're all in the same area in San Diego. One person kept her mind completely grounded and clear. She did whatever she could virtually. She didn't take on what was going on around her, so to speak, even though she had to adjust the way she was doing business. She didn't let it affect her mindset, whereas the other people did, and they pretty much stopped altogether. And where the agent who didn't take that on, where she's at now is just incredible. She has been doing amazing. And this all goes back to the mindset piece. So take a look at, what is something causing you stress right now, or where is there a negative result? And what is the story you're telling yourself about it? What are the thoughts, right? And this is going to help you identify the belief, right? And then what you can do if you're really having a hard time with this is you can kind of write down everything that's not going that well. And then you can write down everything that the way you want it to be instead. So we kind of have one column here and one column here. Hopefully you guys can see me. I think you can. And you want to write down essentially everything that's not going well and what you want instead. And then you can start to see what thinking needs to shift. So you'll be able to identify the thinking that's keeping you in more of that negative place, and what the thoughts are that you need to have instead in order to create what you're really wanting. And then just to share another example of this, and I have so many of them because this is really what I work on with my, again, entrepreneurial clients, is that I was working with someone and she had it in her head that she needed to reach out to people and have meetings with people at least twice before they would be ready to sign up for her services, right? And to purchase her services as a business owner. And so we changed that thinking. And we changed that thinking to, well, why is that? Why do you believe that to be true? And that had been passed down through her organization. And this is really where you guys have an opportunity to step up as leaders. And what kind of culture do you want to create, right? What do you want your employees to believe as well? And how do you want them to be showing up and operating from, right? Because you guys are setting the tone. And so with this person, we started going, well, why do you believe that? And of course it had been passed down from somewhere, and that doesn't really matter. We don't want to have any ill feelings on, where things are passed down. We just want to be aware of it so that we can shift it, right? The awareness is half the battle. And then we want to, make a new decision instead. We want to take that information and make a different choice. And so she changed that. And then the results she started creating were incredible. She was just sitting down with people one time and enrolling them. And they were qualified people with who she could really help. Her product or service could fill a need for people. And then they were signing on just after one meeting. So it was incredible. And her results just skyrocketed. And I know this for myself. I mean, I remember even starting out as a coach and working with a coach. I always was working with coaches to learn from and to also be the best version of myself and get over my own stuff. And I remember being told that summer months for coaches were, summer and Christmas were some of the lowest times of the year, right? The hardest times of the year. And I believed it at first. And then I thought, when I was learning beliefs and studying beliefs, who said that was to be true? Why is that? And so I started questioning it. And then lo and behold, I didn't take it on. I said, this isn't true. And had some of my best months ever in those summer months and at Christmas time. So our thoughts really do impact what we're creating. So look at, what are those thoughts? What are those beliefs that are impacting you where you are right now? And this can be in your personal life too, right? Maybe it's around not taking time for yourself. What is it that you're telling yourself? That you don't have enough time? Maybe that your spouse wouldn't be on board. Have you had a conversation with your spouse? Are these valid beliefs, right? And what do you need to tell yourself instead to create a different reality? So if you know what that is, put it in the chat. Would love to hear from you guys. And let's move on to one of my favorite things to talk about, is filling up your own cup first. So this was actually a picture from a resort my husband and I stayed at in Scottsdale, Arizona a few years ago. And we went for a little, I guess you could kind of call it a staycation, since it's not that far from San Diego, and just had such an amazing weekend. And I just love the power of self-care. And when I'm talking about fill up your cup, that's what I'm referring to, is filling up your cup first and giving from the runoff. So people like to say giving from your saucer instead. So if you picture like a teacup with a saucer, we want to fill up your cup so much that you are giving from the overflow, right? Instead of trying to give from an empty cup. That's so hard. So we want to take time for ourselves in whatever way that looks like. And again, I'll share my morning routine in a minute here to give you guys some ideas. But this goes back to like attracts like. So what you put out, you are going to get back. So if you put out stress, overwhelm, you are going to get more back in your life to feel stressed out and overwhelmed with. On the flip side, if you are feeling joyful, happy, creative, relaxed, you are going to get more of that back in your life, like the results you're wanting to create, like the environment you're wanting to create. Those are all happy, positive things. So when you put out more of that energy, you're going to get more of that back. What also happens from this place is you become more resourceful. Like I was telling you, that beach walk last week, not only does it just feel good and you're happier and you're putting out that energy, right? You're actually more resourceful, where you will see the solutions to whatever it is that you're working on, right? You'll see those next steps. You will just be a more resourceful and empowered version of yourself. And again, that's what you're going to put out. So you're going to put more of that back. And so what I would love everybody to do is, let's just go through a quick exercise around this. So if you're multitasking, stop. We're going to bust you again on that one. And what I want you to do is just this is just a few minutes, and go ahead, close your eyes. And we're all doing this together. I can't see you guys anyway, but we're all doing this together. And let's just take a couple breaths even to get grounded. And this, by the way, is something you can do to fill up your cup, is just spending a few minutes, taking a few breaths. That changes your state, that changes your brain waves. That is alone just so impactful. So let's take a couple deep breaths. Deepest breaths of the day. I'll do it with you guys. Good. Okay, so keep your eyes closed, and I want you just to think of a time in your life, and maybe it's now, where you just felt amazing, felt on top of the world, feeling confident, resourceful, empowered, like everything is just flowing. And pull up that memory of a time when you felt like that. Good. And I want you to think about how you feel in this place, what your decisions are like from this place, how you're impacting others from this place. Just really tune in. Good. Okay, open your eyes. And now what I want you to do is think of a time when things weren't going so well. And maybe that's now, hopefully not. Hopefully, you're not feeling at your worst now. I want you to think about a time when you were. Close your eyes. So pull up a time when everything just seems to be going wrong. You're out of the flow, maybe even feeling a little down and out. Just nothing seems to be going the way you want it, feeling frustrated and overwhelmed, really disempowered, maybe even not that motivated. Good. And then I want you to think about now, how is your decision making from this place? How are you impacting others from this place? And just really tune in. Good. Okay, open your eyes. Not going to leave you guys in that place, but you can see how it's vastly different, right? How we make decisions from that place, right? Where we're making decisions from, how we're showing up as a result, how we're impacting others, very different. So go ahead, close your eyes again. We're going to go back to that first example. We want to be in that resourceful, empowered place. Good. So pull up that first memory when you were feeling at your best, confident, empowered, everything was flowing. Good. Feeling empowered. Good. Okay, you can open your eyes. Good job. And so you can see how, if it just feels better to be operating from that first place, right? And then you can really start to see how your thoughts dictate your actions, your decisions, all of that good stuff. So we really want to strengthen that place of feeling good, right? Feeling empowered, feeling joyful, feeling happy, because we don't want to wait until someday. Someday land is usually where that stays, when we think, oh, I'll do that later when I have more time, or I'll do that later when this time passes, or, when I'm at this level, right? No, we want to start doing it now, because this is going to actually help you create more of this, right? And more of these empowered results. And so I was working with a client once where she was really at her limit. She was maxed out. She was running a business. She was also back at school. And I think she also even had a part-time job or some part-time work she was also doing. So she had a full plate. And we were going into the weekend. Our coaching call was right before. And I said to her, you've got to take a break, right? You've got to get in the self-care. And here's one of these things with self-care is everybody knows, or most people know, they need to do this at this point, right? There's so many health benefits. That's a whole other part of the conversation. But most people let it slide. And we want to go back to the beliefs on this. What are you believing about this? What are you telling yourself about this? What do you need to tell yourself instead? And so we went through that process, and she had, again, a to-do list a mile long, really didn't have the time, quote unquote, to do this. And I also meant to say that her business had plateaued. It started to slow down a little bit as well. So what she did was she said, yes, she made the decision, I'm going to do this. And so she went out on a hike for the weekend, or on the weekend, not the whole weekend, but went out on a hike with her 2 dogs. And she felt so good. She left her phone at home, felt so good. And she came back, and lo and behold, in her inbox was an email from someone who wanted to work with her. So I know this stuff can sound crazy, but when you really start to examine it, you'll see evidence of it in your own life, that, and just through the exercise we just went through, right? Your decision making is more empowered. You're putting out this energy that is empowering, where you're going to get more back of what you want. So she shifted her state. She became more empowered. And again, like attracts like, and it's not a coincidence that a new client reached out during this time, right? And again, maybe the client had been meaning to reach out, but it's just not a coincidence that it all happened at the same time. So this is what gets to happen when we're in this place, is we're going to get more back of what we put out. So some ideas. This can look different for everybody. So I'm definitely not here to say you have to meditate or you have to do a walk in nature. It's really what's going to help you change your state and help you to feel more relaxed and empowered and joyful. So what is that for you? It could be gardening. It could be playing music. It could be a walk in nature. It could be a hot bath. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It could be a massage. You could invest in some of these self-care things. It could be a weekend away. It can be so many things, but I would look at, what do you love to do? What fills your soul up? And what can you start adding in? And so for me, what I love to do in the morning, I love great coffee. So I'm always having a coffee. Thank goodness for coffee makers, right? That are ready for us in the morning. So I love that. And then I do a meditation. I do a positive visualization. That could be a whole other talk on how to really, manifest and create what you're wanting to create. But visualization is a great one, really tuning into what you're wanting to experience in your life, how that's going to feel, getting super specific. That was a big part of how we actually were able to move to California. As you know, we can't, from Canada, just pick up and move. Visas are required and things like that. So this is really how we were able to do those things. And of course, then you have to take action as opportunities show up. That's a big part of it as well. But really doing the visualization is a big one. So I'm not going to get too far into that, but just to touch on that a little bit. And so I do a visualization, and I also do a gratitude practice where I'll write out 5 things that I'm thankful for. I also add in a 6th one. I find, especially for women, this is important. We don't always have, or we're not always the best at receiving, and we need to be able to receive, right? So this is really what self-care is all about, is saying that I'm worthy enough, I value myself to create a great life and more of what I'm really wanting. And we have to be able to receive those opportunities as they show up and those solutions. And so that's what we're doing here with self-care. But I like to add a 6th one in terms of gratitude, something that I've received that day. So maybe my husband made dinner, maybe someone brought me a coffee, maybe someone just acknowledged me, maybe I took time for myself and had a hot bath. That's receiving. That's something that I've done for myself. So I love to add that one in the gratitude practice. And then I usually listen to something that's uplifting and inspiring. And then somewhere throughout the day is also exercising and walking the dog. And so I love to be out in nature as well. So that probably could feel overwhelming if you're not used to doing this. If you're not, what I would suggest go back to my corporate days, I started with one thing a month, right? I was so not anywhere near having this type of lifestyle. And you have to start off with where you are, right? We don't want this to be overwhelming. So you want to start off with where you are. If you're not doing this at all, start with something once a month. If you're already doing something here and there, bump it up to once a week. And maybe this involves a conversation with a spouse if you have little kids on how to fit this in and trade off and be able to do this together, right? If you're already doing something once a week, look at adding it in a few times a week. If you're already doing that, look at doing something every day. So that's kind of the progression we want to get to. And you'll find that this is addictive. This feels good to take care of ourselves. And again, you're just going to be more grounded, more confident. You're going to have a clearer mind, and that leads to creating those results and the lifestyle that you're really wanting. So everybody write down right now, what is one thing that you can do either this upcoming week, this upcoming month, right? During November, what is it? And jot it in the chat if you can there, if you'd like to. And that really helps with the accountability, putting it out there too. And if not, at least jot it down for yourself. What are you committing to do this week, this month for yourself, and stick to it? We're going to talk about putting these things in our calendar here in a minute. And again, here's the thing, you're going to show up differently. You are going to have a huge ripple effect for everybody you come into contact with, right? Nobody wants to be around a negative person. That just doesn't feel great. You really don't feel like you're part of a team. You're not really getting anywhere, right? Creates a lot of stress. So you are going to show up differently, which is going to impact everybody around you in your personal life and your professional life. Even with being online, there are ways to create community and connection with being virtually, right? So I would even check in on that. Are you telling yourself something that's keeping you disconnected with being from home, right? That, oh, you know, this sucks. I can't do this. I can't connect with people. I really want to be able to do that. So you want to, what do you need to tell yourself instead? That I can foster connections even from my home office or virtually, right? I can create those same feelings. I can create that for other people. So those are all examples on how to shift that. Okay, the third one, that is a picture of my family, my husband and I and our two kids, Jude and Ella. This was after surfing at the beach. We love to be down at the beach. I wish I could surf better. I wish I could say that. And maybe that's a story I need to tell myself. I am in the process of being a good surfer. There we go. See, these things are a work in progress, and we just need to catch ourselves. We need to start looking at what are we telling ourselves, right? That's keeping us where we are. And so one of the big things here with really stepping into this empowered version of yourself is knowing your values, right? Knowing what is important to you. And so I chose this slide because family is really important to me. And really, our values can be summed up as our interests and areas of life that are important to us. And the problem is that most people don't know what these are. And we want to build a life around this. And you can have values for your personal life and also values for your professional life. They might overlap or they might be separate. So it can be good to know this for both. But they essentially need to be known so that you can make sure that you're living a life that you love, where you're honoring your values. And what gets to happen with this is it's a lot easier to set boundaries in your life, to make decisions, and to also be able to say no. And so this is such a huge one. Being able to say no to things has come up time and time again for myself, something I've had to work on and continue to for my clients. And this is really a big one that can trip people up, especially if you're a people pleaser, right? I think a lot of us are. We want to make other people happy, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we can sometimes sacrifice our own needs and our own wants. And we're talking about filling up our own cup first. And sure, sometimes we have to compromise, especially if a spouse wants to do something that we don't, vice versa. It's not that we don't want to be flexible and again, compromising, but we do, for the most part, need to be able to say no. And when we know our values and what's important to us, it makes it so much easier to say no, right? To things that aren't serving us, that aren't filling up our cup. And quite frankly, this is what a big part of the overwhelm is saying yes to too many things and not saying no enough. So we really want to look at that, right? We want to know what our values are so we can start making decisions around that. And we want to also be able to say no. So a really clear example of this is years ago, we had, and not that this doesn't ever still happen, but this is such a great example of, we had a lot of weekends that were booked up, right? How many of you guys book up all your weekends? I know right now is a little bit different, but traditionally, how many of you book up all your weekends? Because that's another thing, right? That feeling like we have to take on plans, we have to book up our weekends just because we don't have any plans. We don't have to do that. Our plans can be that we're just having a family night at home, right? Or, and this is why knowing your values is so important. So I'll just share the example because I'm getting off on a little tangent here. But we had a busy few weekends in a row. And then my son was invited to a birthday party of a friend that wasn't, really a super close friend, or maybe that would have been a little bit different, and the kids were little, and I just started feeling disconnected from our family. We'd been really busy. We needed to have that time together. And so I said no to the birthday party, and I didn't explain why. I just said, we're not going to be able to make it. And that was that. And it felt so good and so liberating. And I was able to do that because I knew one of my values was family. And then I didn't have to feel guilty, right, about saying no, because this is something that's in alignment with my values. And we need to be able to check in on this and see where we're out of alignment and what we're just saying yes to people please, where things aren't coming from a very functional place. And we also need to be able to say no. So keep in mind, just have one sentence ready. I suggest practicing this over and over, that it's just not going to work for you, whatever that is. If it is something that you want to do later, you can always say, that you might be able to do that another time. But if it's a firm no, then that's not going to work for me. I'm not going to be able to do that. My daughter, who is 11 now, is really good at this one. And she just says, I'm good. And so my mom and I are always laughing because she's the best boundary setter. She just says, I'm good. And how can anyone argue with that? Right. And that's the thing. You'll find that most people just want an answer. They're not looking for an explanation. It's us that feel like we have to justify. So you want to practice saying no. And again, when we know our values, it makes it easier. So I'm going to talk about creating an empowered calendar, but what I would love for you guys to do, so I have a fun values game. And why doesn't everybody go ahead and download it right now? I was trying to think of the best way to share this with you guys, and I couldn't really email you a Word doc. So this is what I came up with. You can go ahead and download it right now. So it's chrisatley.com/values. And we're going to go through a fun little values game because again, it's hard to come back and do this stuff later, right? So let's all do that. And while you guys are doing that, I'm going to check the time because I can't actually see that. So take a minute, and then I'm also going to go over creating an empowered calendar? Great. So we still have quite a bit of time, which is awesome. So go ahead and download that. And while you're doing that, with the empowered calendar, so once you know what your values are, you can start to make sure that those values are honored. And what I always say is the best way for things to actually happen is for them to be in your calendar, right? The self-care time, date nights, whatever it is that's important to you, family time. And of course, we want to be flexible, but what I suggest doing is once you know your values, then you can design an empowered calendar that honors all of these things, and that also honors your work time, of course. And you want to put in all the things that are around taking care of yourself first. So whatever it is that you said on the last slide that you're going to commit to doing, putting that in the calendar, because we want to make sure that our self-care is also a priority and a value, right? You're taking care of yourself should be one of your top values, which most of us are not taught. So we want to get our mind around that and have some shifts there. And then put that in the calendar. And what I like to do is use Google Calendar, but whatever works for you. Some people still like to have a handwritten calendar. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Go with whatever resonates. What I like to do is have different color blocks for work, for personal, for self-care, for family time, for kids activities, things like that. Everything is in a different color. And then I put in the self-care. I make sure my values are being honored, right? And you can have reoccurring items then in your calendar, which is really helpful. So I like to set out a monthly calendar where all of these things that are important to me are in there. And then in terms of your work calendar, what I would do is look at, you might have your own initiatives that are being passed down, but ideally, if you can just look at 3 initiatives at a time for, you know, growing the business, for moving things forward, whatever that looks like for you, that's a great way to stay out of overwhelm, is if you can just focus on 3 initiatives at a time, because what you'll find is under those 3 initiatives are a bunch of other smaller initiatives. So that's some guidance on that. But in terms of the overall calendar, you definitely want to have all of these things in there for yourself and have it as a reoccurring item monthly. That's why having it on the computer is a little bit easier to do it this way. So you would have it as a reoccurring to-dos on your calendar each month. And then what you can do is check in on your calendar each week. So I suggest doing it at the end of the workday on Friday or on a Sunday or even Monday morning, getting really clear on what you have coming up for the week, so that you can adjust things. Because again, we want to stay flexible. If you know you have a meeting or something important's come up and you need to move your to-dos around, that's totally fine. But we just want to make sure that they're still being honored then. And this is also great if you know you have a big project at work, or you know, you're really busy and you do have to let something go, some of the self-care go, which I definitely recommend still getting it in there because it helps you move through those projects. But if it really has to go, then look at where can you schedule it in at the end, right? So if you have a really busy week, can you take a Saturday morning? You know, what does that look like? So you can schedule in that extra self-care. And that works out really well too, because as you're moving through a really busy time, then you know, okay, I have this time planned, and it helps to let go of the stress a little bit as well and the overwhelm, because you know that you have this chunk of time coming, or maybe you can schedule a massage, or, you know, if you can't do that right now, I know where we are, some places are open for that right now. You know, but what is it for you that you even enjoy and like to do, and get that on the calendar? So, okay, so where are we at for time? I want to make sure that we leave time for question and answers. Okay, so if you haven't already started the values game, go ahead and do that. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes so that you can run through that. And so basically what you're doing is you're narrowing it down to your top 3 to 5. I think the worksheet says 5 or 3, sorry, but you can do 3 to 5. And you basically want to cross off any that don't resonate. So you're basically narrowing them down. And then you want to, sometimes you can go, well, hey, if I had more of this, that would already take care of this one over here. So you can look at it that way as well. By including one, does it help include some of the others? So we'll give you guys a couple minutes there. And you can always go back and print this later too. If you haven't printed it and you're just looking at it, you can just start to pick out the ones that are the most important to you. And go ahead and share in the chat if you know what these are. So for some people, they can be family, fun. And, you know, another twist on this is to look at some of the dysfunctional ones that can be causing us to make disempowered decisions. So like people pleasing or that need for approval outside of ourselves, right? These can all keep us in making disempowered decisions. So we want to be aware of those too as you're moving through this. And then again, choosing the ones that are your overall values, and then maybe you want to get clear on what they are at work as well, so that you can be creating more of a empowered work environment too. Okay, great. So we're going to move on just in case anyone is having trouble doing this exercise, so we can keep moving. But if you are, you can just reach out to me and I'll make sure that you get it. And let's move on then to our final one, which is expectations. Oh my goodness, this is such a big one. I am convinced if we didn't have so many expectations of others, it would eliminate so much stress, right? How many times do we think, oh, this person didn't email me back, or this person didn't text me back? And we really want to check into whose rules are these, right? Again, it kind of goes back to beliefs. Like, what are we believing about these ways of showing up in society? And we want to check in on this, because a lot of times we've created a bunch of rules for ourselves and for others that just don't really need to be there, that are causing us to stay in that place of stress and overwhelm, causing us to have heavier thoughts, needing to work through different scenarios we're having with people, right? And so that we can let go of this. I like to kind of call it drama, right? We can stay in a lot of drama, and you know what's going on deep down is that none of us want to feel like a bad person, right? If we really look at what's going on, if we, you know, start to feel like somebody did something wrong, right? Didn't abide by our rules and expectations. So we just want to check in there and look at whose rules they are. So a really brief example on this one. So when we first moved to the US from Canada, I kept a few clients. I already had my coaching business up and going. I kept a few clients and, you know, was really working on getting the family settled. And so, and because we didn't have our support system, right? We no longer had grandparents to help out or any of that family, which is part of, you know, moving and following a big dream is that part, you know, you have to be okay with it. So we were getting support systems set up and things like that. And I just remember feeling really overwhelmed with, you know, taking care of the kids, with also doing some work, keeping up with the house. This was before we had a housekeeper. And I remember saying to my husband, you know, what are your expectations of me? Because in my head, I had to have dinner on the table. I'd have a clean house. You know, I had to have my work done. I had to make sure the kids were happy, all these things. And he goes, I just expect that the kids are safe and everybody's alive. And I was like, oh, well, what are all these other expectations that I've put on myself? And if you really dial this stuff back, it goes back to all the beliefs I thought about how we need to have a home and keep a house and, you know, raise a family and run a business and take on all these things and be perfect at it, right? And I can tell you there is no medal coming at the end of the day for how much you can fit into one day. So we really need to take a close look at that. So tune in, whose rules are these? And are they valid? Maybe they are. You know, maybe at work, there is a customer service rule that you return all emails within 2 hours. Well, then that's something that is an expectation that would be valid, right? But we want to just tune in. Are they valid? Are they not? Are they things that rules I've put into place that are just causing stress for other people? And let's check in. And then we want to know, who do you want to be instead, right? Who do you want to be instead? What type of person do you want to be, right? So that you can be that version of you, right? Are you that forgiving version that lets stuff go? You know, or are you being a real stickler? You know, check in. Who do you want to be? And then we want to make the decision. You've probably gathered from our time here today that it's really about making the decision on who you want to be, on how you want to show up instead. And we want to step into that place. And then I want you to write down, what do you need to believe in order to be this version of you, this empowered version? What do you need to believe? And you can go back to, if you went through the columns in the other exercise, that may have given you some insight. So who do you need to, or what do you need to believe? Not who do you need to believe. And then I have down here, burn it. And what I'm referring to is the old belief. So what you mapped out before, that old belief that's keeping you where you are in that place of stress and overwhelm, not very empowered, right? Keeping you creating those results you're not wanting or the environment you're not wanting, whatever you came up with before. I want you to write that down on its own paper and then literally burn it. So I've been teaching this exercise for so long now, and there's just something to be said about watching that old mindset go up in flames and creating that new empowered belief instead. And then we want to have that belief, like we were talking about before, it's that consistent repetition, right? With how beliefs are formed. So we want to do that with the new empowered belief as well. So have it everywhere where you can see it. Screensaver, you can do marker on your bathroom mirror. You can have sticky notes. You can have it on your phone as a backdrop. Wherever it is, most people are super visual. So having it where you can see it. And then we want to start making decisions from this place, right? From this new empowered belief and way of being. And then you're going to be creating empowered decisions from that place and creating a new result as a result. And then I really want you to think about, and we're almost done here. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. Perfect. We have some time for Q&A in a minute here. But just thinking about how you're going to stay focused on these things. What is going to help you? So having the empowered calendar, I definitely suggest making time in your schedule this week. I call it schedule the schedule. Make time in your calendar this week to work on your calendar and map that out so that it actually happens. And what is going to help you to stay focused? Do you need to look at that every day? Do you need to check in on your calendar once a week? You also want to be going back to our first concept around motivation. What do you need to do to stay motivated every day? Do you want to have your why written out? What is helpful for you with everything that we talked about today for you to stay focused, right? And each person's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have your own system, but essentially we want to be connecting to your why every day, and we want to be incorporating the self-care. We want to have a calendar based around your values, and we want to let go of any of these dysfunctional expectations, right? And replace them with the empowered beliefs instead. And so just to finish up, to connect, would love to connect with you guys online. I tend to be more on Facebook and Instagram, just at Chris Atley. That's my website if you want to go there and check it out. I also have a really great quiz that will tell you where you're at in sort of the 4 main areas of life: finances, relationships, career, and relationships, I think. Oh, I just said that one. The 4th one, I think, is, I know it splits up career and money, but it's a great overview, and it will tell you where you're at right now in those areas of life, so that you can kind of take an inventory on what might be also draining your time and energy. And then you can start to pick away at them. It's like, if you had a car that needed repair and you keep thinking about it and thinking about it, if you just make the appointment, then you have freed up some time and energy, right, in your mind, and you can be focused on what you want to be doing instead. So that's a great little exercise, and would love to stay connected with you guys. But just in closing, it really is up to us to be the best versions of ourselves. And we have the power to influence everyone around us, and it really starts with us. So look at every single day, what is going to help you? What do you need? Tune into your own needs and make sure that you're honoring those needs, because again, what you're going to put out, you're going to get back. And it really is a huge ripple effect when we can take care of ourselves and operate from the best version of ourselves. So that is what I have to share today. So I know Kate's going to hop back on, and if we have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Oh, and I'll do a stop share. I think I need to do that as well. There we go.
I haven't seen any questions come through. I just sent out to the panelists, to all panelists and attendees, that if anyone has any questions, to go ahead and type them into the chat box. I think you saw that people were responding to you as you went along.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Thank you guys for utilizing the chat. I know it's just it's so fun to be able to connect this way. So thank you for, for doing that as we went.
We have a question here. At some point you hit a wall with motivation, and how do you get over it?
Yeah, I think, if you can tune back into, well, first of all, doing these values, the values game will really help. And it looks like someone had trouble with that too. So, I'll put the link in here too, so you guys can get that, no problem. But it really comes back to knowing what's important to you and knowing what you're wanting to create, so that you can get motivated again and get excited about creating a life that includes those things, right? And again, you can have that personal why that's helpful. What is something that you really would like to do that maybe you've been putting off, or kind of feels like a dream that you aren't allowing yourself to go for? That's another thing. I see people not giving themselves permission to really go for those big goals and dreams. So what is it for you? And just allow yourself to put it out there and go for it. And then look at also what the why is in your current business, in your current workplace, right? Why is what is it about it that you love, or what is it about it, why you got into it to begin with? That will help you to reconnect as well. So I would just even spend some time brainstorming on all of this and just let your mind kind of be free and see what you come up with. And that'll help you to get reconnected.
I have a kind of a personal question. I know that you were saying earlier that, you know, in your previous career, you were just, you know, stressed, and you started doing coaching, and you kind of refocused, and you kind of decided that, you know, you were going to make this major switch. What was it about? I mean, did you always know you wanted to move to California, or like, did you always know you wanted to be in the US? I mean, what kind of like pushed you in that direction? Was it being close to the water, warm weather? Like, I'm just curious how, like, Canada to San Diego.
Yeah, I love that question because I didn't spend that much time on it. You're right. So basically what happened is when I watched the movie The Secret, they talk a lot about following your bliss. And I just knew for me, it was California. And I knew that it was palm trees and the ocean. So yeah, the warm weather, and just, you know, kind of the lifestyle out here. I really wanted to be a part of that. And what's interesting is I realized I had always had a pull to California. So it really started when I was 8 years old. And I don't know, I'm totally like giving away my age, but does anybody remember the Sweet Valley High books? So the twins lived in Malibu, and I just always thought that sounded so amazing. And I thought I would come out here and, you know, live by the beach, and dogs were really important to me. And, you know, I would see those commercials of where, the dogs were being abused. I think it was Humane Society that had these commercials out. So in my mind at 8 years old, I was going to own all the dogs in the world and live in Malibu. And if anyone wanted a dog, they were going to have to come and, you know, have an interview with me so I could make sure that they were fit to be a dog owner. So I had this whole vision. And then along the way, I almost came out for university. I almost took the SATs, and then I kind of chickened out. And then a girlfriend and I almost got in a car later and just did a road trip and moved out. We had just started dating our now husbands, and we're like, well, let's see how this goes. And so I'd always had a pull, which is so interesting. And yeah, just really, you know, when I would think about coming home in my mind, if I was ever upset, it was always picturing being by the beach and the palm trees. So that was kind of a long answer, but that's really what it was. And what's really cool is I've since been able to coach someone who has a canine medic business. And she works with a lot of dogs, and we helped to expand her business. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was kind of a way that came full circle with being able to help in that world, so to speak.
Chris, that's a pretty inspirational story. I thought your presentation was excellent. For, you know, the virtual program in some kind can be a little dry and whatnot, and we had everyone engaged. There was a lot of chat going on, and you know, your success story is pretty inspiring, and I hope you hear more from others, as well as you will hear from me, because I'm in the early stages of starting a coaching career. So I think our paths may cross again.
Yes, I would love to. Let's definitely stay connected. And thank you so much. I'm so happy that everybody was able to connect and engage. That's so awesome. You guys have a great group.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Anything else, Kate? Anyone else? No closing questions or anything?
No, but I just feel like I feel your Southern California vibe. Like, you're very
Absolutely
soothing.
Aww.
So, yeah, it suits you well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate it.
No,
you're so welcome. Thank you. I really had fun.
Totally do. And in the scene of COVID and all our virtual, this has been very inspiring on Zoom. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad. Thank you, guys. Have a great day, everyone.
Be well. Talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds great. Bye.